Hel- Hello, adventurers. Welcome to LG2 Adventures. And like and comment and subscribe. Today's adventure, we're gonna explore the Rock Island Lighthouse. Okay, we are going into the lighthouse. My throat doesn't really feel that good, so I'm just gonna talk a little bit. So we're going into the lighthouse, and we're going to the top, and we are here. And you see my brother?
Keep on going.
Stuff.
Well, this is going to be the fun part right here. Wait, Eric.
Okay, we're just getting
Go ahead, Gavin.
It's like climbing a bunk bed.
There's the window.
Wait. One of us. Watch. Go ahead, go.
Yeah.
What's your case, guys? Where are we? Let's move out of the way. Now, this is pretty.
I'm gonna take a picture.
Yeah, look out.
Stuff.
That view.
There's a big view. And then the
See the
bridge.
shoals now in the light shine. See it
Oh,
on
yeah.
that show.
I'll get a picture of you.
You get to do this dozens of times a day, right?
Dozens, absolutely.
Good for you.
It is 100 degrees here.
Wow.
So, anyway, we won't keep you too long, but we'll share a few things with you as you look out at the beautiful environs. My name is Peter, by the way. We're so glad to have you here because we couldn't tour this at all last year, as I mentioned before. This lighthouse began just this lantern room on top of the keeper's house, the original one, which is at that location, but not that red and white house. The lantern room was fixed atop the original cobblestone house, commissioned by the 11th President of the United States, James K. Polk. We don't hear much about this man today, but in 4 years, he annexed all the land that's now Texas and New Mexico from Mexico, all the land that's now Washington and Oregon, he got from Canada and Great Britain, greatly enhancing the territory of the United States. And one of the great territorial things he did was he established the need for inland navigation, lighthouses on the inland rivers, like the Ohio and the Mississippi and the St. Lawrence River. There wasn't any at all. Seacoasts had their lighthouses, but we had none. So the lighthouse was here from 1847 to 1882. Keepers constantly petitioned Washington, all lighthouses were federal. So can we please have a better house? This is terribly damp for raising children, and we want to make the lighthouse bigger. So they finally relented and moved the lantern room from here, and you're standing in it now, to a brand new cast iron chamber. You just climbed through that with me today. You're standing up here now. This, however, was when the lighthouse was only 35 feet tall and stood on the other side of the island, which is where they erected it, when they built the new red and white keeper's house. And the beginnings of the spiral staircase were installed there in 1882 at that time. But what you can't see from this 1882 photograph is that they built the keeper's house taller than the light. totally negating the whole purpose of the lighthouse, which was to warn mariners and ships and river pilots and navigators and captains about the incredible dangers of the American Narrows. The most dangerous place on the St. Lawrence River is right here, where the river speed picks up. The shoals are just edgy like a funnel on its side, squeezing the river, increasing whirlpool and eddy activity all around here, and we had these terrible shipwrecks because the lamp was masked by the roof of the house with various approaches to the American Narrows. Where the dive boat is right there, she's diving, her occupants and divers are diving on the wreck of the A.E. Vickery. She's down there at 115 feet, having come ashore here in a terrible 79 knot gale and hurricane force winds, August the 15th, 1889. She came ashore right under these rocks here. The keeper and his wife reported in their logs hearing this horrendous crash and scream as the A.E. Vickery, which is 138 feet long, 30 feet wide, 28-foot keel depth, carrying 21,000 bushels of corn with 11 passengers, came ashore here and stove a huge hole in her side. The keeper and his family got everybody off. Fortunately, everyone survived, although many were injured and beat up. It was such a rough crash on here. And they ministered to their wounds overnight. During the night, the winds abated, went away, and the A.E. Vickery began to slide and slid backwards down the Rock Island Shoal to the point where that boat is, and it drops off a sheer vertical cliff down at 115 feet. And she now sits on the bottom, virtually intact. She's a three-masted, all-wood schooner. Her decks are still there. Only her hatch covers are missing. Her bowsprit, her masts are still there, her rudder, her chain plates, her bulwarks. It's a penetratable dive. You can dive on her, and counting the tops of her telephone post size masts at 70 feet. You can dive right on down, go inside of her, and swim the entire length. She is the most famous, known, popular freshwater wreck dive of an American wooden schooner in the United States. And it's like time stood still. Other than the marine growth and lack of sails, it looks like she sank yesterday.
So that's specialty divers for that?
No, sir. That's well within the region of a sport dive.
Oh, it's
You're an
really?
amateur
Okay.
scuba diver. Your limits are 125 feet,
okay.
so she's at 115.
I thought it was 60. I'm wrong.
However, the Oconto hit the Granite State Shoal. That's that rock sticking up there, which is normally underwater. And if you see that marker there to the right of the rock, that marks the gravesite of the Oconto, a huge all-steel and cast-iron steamship that hit that shoal in July of 1879, 10 years earlier than the A.E. Vickery. And she lies on the bottom at 200 feet. Now that is a technical dive. You have to be like a Navy SEAL or a U.S. Navy or a Coast Guardsman trained in mixed gases to dive on that wreck. She lies inverted upside down on the bottom on top of another large steamboat whose name we have never been able to discover. We know a lot about the Oconto because we have her bill of lading. We know exactly what she carried, how many passengers, and a lot about the night she sank. But the other shipwreck we don't know, and yet there's another one just under that orange day marker there that you see there that hit the same shoal for the same reason. She couldn't see the light. She took longer to sink and strew her wreckage all along as the current took her downriver, and now she's sunk at the bottom of that marker there. We do not know her name either.
So
We know,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say we have 6 other wrecks right around here, but they're in such disintegration that we can't even see them really.
So the schooners were at the mercy of the current wind then, obviously.
Absolutely, especially when they were fully laden. The A.E. Vickery had 21,000 bushels of corn that she picked up in Chicago, Illinois, and she was taking it up to Weiser's Distillery in Prescott, Ontario, which is only 40 miles from here. She almost made it, but the storm took her down.
There's no way to power through anything back then.
Well, now she was a sailing ship, and look at the current, and the river is always flowing perpetually, eternally downbound toward the Atlantic Ocean. So she was at the mercy of the weather and the wind and the current of the St. Lawrence River.
Things are certainly a lot easier now.
Yes, sir. So all the keepers burned whale oil lights in this lighthouse, or lard made from whale oil. They would come up here 4 times a night. No iPhone flashlights, no Ever-Readies back then. They had to come up here with a candle or a whale oil lamp and in one hand, and a large brass tray called the keeper's tray, full of whale oil. And they come up here and refill the reservoir with Fresnel lens. The first Fresnel lens that was mounted on this pedestal, it could be seen 13 miles on a good night. The second lens they put in here in 1872 was twice as big, almost reaching to where the ceiling fan is now, and it can be seen 22 miles. This light is the brightest light on the river, brightest thing you've ever seen. If you're here at night, you got to wear sunglasses, it's just too much, but it can only be seen on the best night ever, 8 miles. So that gives you some idea of how bright the whale oil light was. And it was 135 degrees up here. It's just like having a wood stove, just full tilt up here every night. Yeah. Pretty amazing. All the keepers lived on the island with their children and their wives and kids, many little children born in this house. Keeper only made $300 per year, so he learned how to farm the island, raising chickens to sell eggs, chopping ice out of the river to sell. Some had cows and they sold milk and eventually beef, and caught fish and put them in the fish pond. That's what that square rock, that's a fish pond. That started as a fish pond, later on was added to become a wharf. So the keepers were very, very busy people, and they received a commission from the President of the United States to serve here. All American lighthouses were presidentially appointed keepers. So they were remarkable people. They were lifesavers, and therefore they were the most respected and beloved people on the river. They were the pillars of the community, because not only did the sailors love them because of their life-saving lives and efforts, but also the townspeople on the mainland and the islanders as well. They loved the keepers. Some learned how to build ships, small skiffs, oars and paddles, as well as canoes, barks, and dinghies. And one man, Willard Cook, who lost his right arm in the Battle of Bull Run during the Civil War, learned how to row a boat one arm as well as build boats. And his boats were of such high quality, people kind of stood in line to purchase them. They loved to do business with the keepers and their families because they loved them and wanted to show their gratitude by purchasing their products. Pretty incredible. I don't know if you have any questions, but it's been a delight to show you a group of people in Albany who got $5.2 million in private donations over a 20-year period. They came out here and refurbished it for 6 years and made it into a state park, so it's here for you, for your children, for your grandchildren.
So this is not used for navigation?
No, it was decommissioned, sir, in 1956.
GPS? No.
Now, but we light it, New York State lights it as a courtesy and as a pleasure for boaters, because I boat on this river with my boat all the time, and I'm glad to see Rock Island at night. It's a comfort. Yeah. Lets me know where I am. And I have GPS that'll tell me